validation of a survey questionnaire assessing the determinants of HPV vaccine hesitancy in France. This study is part of my PhD project. I have been invited by Amis des Vaccins to the Eurogin conference last year. HPV vaccine is recommended in France in girls since 2007, but vaccine coverage remains very low. It is crucial to gain a greater understanding of the determinants of HPV vaccine hesitancy in the French context. Vaccine hesitancy is a complex problem. It is influenced by many factors. According to the SAGE working group model for the determinants of vaccine hesitancy, there are three main categories of factors. Contextual influences, for example, communication and media environment and historical influences. Individual and group influences, for example, beliefs and attitude about health and prevention, knowledge and awareness. And vaccine and vaccination specific issue, for example, vaccination schedule and costs. The objective of this study was to develop and undertake a preliminary validation of a French survey questionnaire for the determinants of HPV vaccine hesitancy using the SAGE vaccine hesitancy model of determinant as a framework. We conducted an electronic-based Delphi consultation among a panel of French-speaking experts using 2 rounds. We first generated a pool of items following an extensive literature review, and we also included items from validated questionnaires. We asked the experts to rate each item on a 3-point Likert scale, in which 1 means the item is essential to represent the underlying factor, subcategory factor from the SAGE model. 2 means the item is useful but not essential, and 3 means the item is not necessary. We also asked the experts to provide comments on the clarity of the items and provide reformulations if needed. We computed the content validity ratio to assess the level of consensus for each item. So the CVR is a matrix which gives an idea about the agreement. It is a function of the number of experts and the rating of each item. And it ranges from -1 to +1. -1 means nobody agrees that the item is essential, and +1 means everybody agrees. Only item upon which agreement was not reached in round 1, in this case a CVR below 0.6, and new proposed items, according to the comments of the experts, were submitted in round 2. In round 2, we also asked the expert to score each item on the 3-point Likert scale and to provide comments on the clarity of the items. So, 15 experts participated in both round 1 and round 2. Among them, 67% were female. The discipline covered ranged from medical gynecology to public health, anthropology, and health psychology. 74% of the experts worked in the academic setting, and almost 50% of them had more than 20 years of experience in their field. This flowchart represents the flow of the items. So we first submitted 83 items to the expert panel. Among them, 35 reached consensus in the first round and were thus directly included in the final questionnaire. 48 items did not reach consensus, so 25 of them were reformulated, and the remaining were kept as initially worded and were recirculated. And we also generated 18 new items, according to the comments of the experts. In round 2, we circulated 66 items, Among them, 22 reached consensus and were kept for the final questionnaire, and the remaining were dropped. The final questionnaire included 57 items. So here I will just give a few examples of the items. Obviously, I'm not going to list the 57 items. But just if we go back to our SAGE working group model for the determinants of vaccine hesitancy, and if we take the category of contextual influences, for the subcategory communication and media, we have, for example, the item, how did you hear about the HPV vaccine? And here are the modality of responses. For the subcategory religion culture, we have the item, I think that vaccinating girls against HPV encourages them to have sex. If we move to the second category, individual and group influences, for the subcategory knowledge awareness, we have, for example, have you ever searched for information on the HPV vaccine in the past? And for the subcategory immunization as a social norm versus not needed, most girls around my daughter's age are getting vaccinated for HPV. And finally, for the vaccine and vaccination specific issue, we have the example of the vaccination schedule. If the HPV vaccine was important, it would have been made mandatory. Has a doctor or another health professional ever recommended that you vaccinate your daughter against HPV for the strange recommendation? In conclusion, 57 items of a questionnaire with good content validity were developed in this study. Unlike the existing tool, this one is the first to comprehensively consider the factors that may influence HPV vaccine hesitancy in France. The next stage is to pilot test the questionnaire and to use it in a large-scale survey, which will allow further evaluation of its validity. I would like to give my warmest thanks to all the collaborators in this project, including my PhD supervisors, all the 15 members of the panel experts. And also thank you to the French National Cancer Institute, who funded my PhD fellowship. Thank you very much.